Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are a single person, specifically a single woman who is looking to date men, then you know as well as I know that social media is filled with tons of oftentimes unasked for advice that should make it easier to find the person that you want. Everything from feminine energy coaches, misogynistic podcasters who tell you everything you're doing wrong, to people who got into a relationship yesterday and just want to tell you that it'll happen when you least expect it. And on that tip, I just want to share a few other pieces of dating advice that I'm tired of hearing and I'm tired of seeing people tell people. So I already said it'll happen when you least expect it, because for some people, yes, that is true. But for others, no, they had to actually conscientiously date with a purpose in mind, go after the person that they wanted, or go after the type of person that they wanted, and they did not stop until that happened. I think human beings, when something happens for them one way and they were successful, they often tend to preach that as if that is gospel, and it just isn't. The other thing I hate hearing is when people say you are single because you don't love yourself, as if people don't learn how to love themselves more or learn what makes them worthy and valuable just as general human beings while they're in relationships with other people. I do not believe that the absence of a partner is evidence that you lack self-love, and it's also not evidence that you have an abundance of self-love. And the final thing I hate hearing, and I hate it because it's said a lot to people who can be categorized as late bloomers, people who often say things like, I've never been the object of anybody's desire, and it's really affected me. I hate when someone says, well, being in a romantic relationship isn't that big of a deal anyway. As if knowing that you are romantically wanted is not an emotional need that a lot of us do have, and as if the physical and biological advantages and sometimes necessities that partnership provides aren't something that are worthy to desire and to yearn after. I think every person who wants to be in a relationship should be allowed to do so and should be allowed to voice their need and their want without somebody gaslighting them and saying, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal anyway. I won't do anything. At the beginning of the year, back in February, I did a video where I acknowledged some of my favorite creators on TikTok, my favorite Black creators, because it was Black History Month. And I talked about this one girl in particular, where she spoke about a study that was done on the brains of people that are in healthy romantic partnerships.
A 2005 Journal of Neurophysiology study found that in the early stages of intense romantic love, the pleasure centers of our brain and the insula are activated. The insula is the part of our brain that rewards us for doing life-sustaining activities to make sure we keep engaging in them. A 2012 Archives of Sexual Behavior study found that long-term love activates the insula as well as the nucleus accumbens, which is the pleasure centers of the brain. In a 2006 study at the Effective Neuroscience Laboratories out of the University of Virginia, they put women in an MRI machine and then put them through a simulated stressful situation. When these women went through the stressful simulation by themselves, the hypothalamus, which registers stress, lit up, right? But when they were holding the hands of their husbands, the activity in the part of the brain that registers stress was barely visible on the MRI. The Harvard study of adult development has been going on for almost 100 years, and they have found the greatest predictor of late life happiness is stable relationships, especially a long romantic partnership. That is a quote. In 2015, Dr. Robert Weiss wrote that initial attraction, lasting love, and addictive substances share the same neurochemical underpinnings. Lasting, requited, companionate romantic love increases the brain's production of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, reduces the activity in the amygdala, reduces the activity in the hypothalamus, reduces cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure. A lot of people seem to have this discomfort with the idea that you can depend on romantic partnership for happiness in your life, not exclusively, but in large part, when in reality, physiologically, that is exactly what good romantic partnership does. And from an evolutionary point of view, that is exactly what romantic partnership is for.
So I hate when I hear people say, it's just not that big of a deal. Those are the things that I really, really hate. However, you saw the title of this video. I'm going to be talking about some dating advice that I neither hate nor love. I just didn't expect it, and it's something that I would never do. I am talking about vabbing. Vabbing is the process of taking your vaginal fluids and dabbing them behind your ears in order to activate the pheromones that you naturally give off, that your bodily secretions, that word, naturally give off in order to attract more sexual and romantic partners. For me, vabbing is the latest in a long line of scent-based attraction propaganda. Whether it's people talking about what perfumes are going to be the ones that, bring people in. There are actually pheromone infused perfumes that you can get, or, even something goofier. And I say goofy, but I'm pretty sure this probably does exist in real life. Love potions. I remember when I was a kid, there was a movie called Love Potion Number 9 about a young woman who gets this love potion, and because somebody can smell it whenever they're around her, they fall in love with her. And then of course, hijinks ensue. Vabbing was actually first introduced to social media in 2019 by the content creator who goes by the name of ShanBoody here on YouTube, and her name is Shannon Boodram in real life.
So Shannon wrote a book and it's here on screen. And in the book, she talked about vabbing, but she also made a TikTok where she went into further detail. So I'm going to play that TikTok now.
Why behind using your vaginal fluids as perfume? Does it work? Is it sanitary? And should you try it? The term pheromone is derived from the Greek words pherin, meaning to transfer, and hormone, meaning to excite. Thus, pheromones transfer excitement. Now, pheromones are chemical molecules released to trigger hormonal changes and elicit behavioral responses from others. And these signaling molecules are used in bodily fluids such as vaginal secretions. And that is why you can use your vaginal fluids as a perfume to draw other people in. In the book, I suggest women put it on their wrists because we talk with our hands, and so we might create that waft. I did it today. And as a little fun fact and a thought starter, this notion that our bodies are smelly, gross, and need to be treated by commercial products in order to be acceptable is an idea that came about around the same time as consumerism. Now, prior to this, there was widespread knowledge that pheromones worked in transferring excitement, that pheromones worked in drawing people in. In the 19th century, men used to actually take their handkerchiefs that used to go in their suit pockets and put them under their armpits for an entire day so it would become drenched in the smell, the natural smell of their pits. And then throughout the day, if they saw someone they fancied, they would take that same handkerchief that was soaked in their pheromones and wipe the sweat off someone's face or lightly dust a little stain on their collar. And by doing that, they would be transferring their pheromones to them, transferring that excitement and making that person drawn to them through their raw human scent. And that is the BDE that we are using when we talk about using your vaginal copulins as perfume. So your natural scent is not disgusting. The natural scent of your vagina is not repulsive. It's not gross. That to be said, health professionals who have weighed in on this topic have said wearing your vaginal fluids behind your ears is not going to put other people at risk. So in conclusion, vaginal copulins as perfume. Should we all go out there and use it? Maybe not. May not be your cup of tea, may not be intriguing to you.
Shannon calls herself or refers to herself as a sex therapist, a sexologist. She is a columnist. She's written books. All of her content pretty much stems around attracting the right sex partners, how to engage yourself when you are in certain types of relationships and certain types of situations. Personally, I feel like we could not be any further apart in life experience, which is why her content has never specifically spoken to me. Whenever I see a woman giving coaching advice when it comes to dating, when it comes to sex, the first thing I ask myself is this woman extremely conventionally attractive? And if she is, my ears just turn off. And that is because I know there's a lot of pushback out there about how effective and how far in life being pretty or having pretty privilege really takes you. But I definitely think there is a pipeline between people that have pretty privilege or some kind of societal privilege and then calling themselves coaches, specifically female dating coaches. A lot of times I'm like, oh, of course you had that experience. Look at you. Right? I think that whenever somebody is, preaching this and building a platform off of this and saying, hey, this is what I did and it works, my first question is, okay, but are you hot? Because if you're a hot person, then of course. It's the same as those people who are like, I bought a house and I don't think it's that hard to do. And here's what I did to do it. stopped going to Starbucks, stopped eating avocado toast. I got a small loan of $500,000 from my father, and I used coupons when I went to Target. Anybody can do it. They really ignore the extreme biological advantage that they've been given in the dating marketplace. And they're like, oh no, it's all about confidence. Babes, stop playing. I saw a TikTok about it, and this woman put it extremely well, what I'm trying to say here. The reason why I don't listen to a lot of female dating coaches, especially if they're extremely conventionally attractive. And I'll let her explain it.
I feel like people are going to get pissed about this one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Most of the dating advice that's out on the market is for people who are hot, often specifically hot single girls who are able to get tons of dates and enjoy the dating process. I don't mean to get all patriarchal about it, but guys do. So if you're like a 5 who is getting dating advice from a 10, you're probably not getting the advice that would actually suit you best. The reason for this is because, like everyone says, dating is a numbers game. So if you're incredibly hot, you're gonna get like 50 times more opportunities for dates than someone who is not conventionally attractive, especially because so many relationships do just start with a swipe. And while being hot is not the only thing that's gonna get you a partner, when you have so many more chances at dates and people who are sliding into your DMs, it's like buying 50 times as many lottery tickets as the person who just bought 1 or 2. I do want to distinguish this from relationship advice, which is different than dating advice, but admit it, dating is luck.
So really quickly, before I get back to my video, I do want to state that, first of all, I don't agree with the whole ranking yourself, a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I don't think the author of that TikTok would necessarily endorse that either, but she was trying to, think in the ways that society sometimes thinks. But I do want to say that when we talk about attractiveness, your attractiveness can really depend on, and I wrote it out here. Here we go. Being conventionally attractive could also just mean you have a higher chance of being identified as someone people want to know romantically in the social environment. So that could change based on what culture you're a part of, what geographic location you're in, what age, how old you are, what race of the group you are attempting to date within is. However, there are some people who are more likely to be identified as ideal romantic partners across any group. And usually these people are objectively conventionally attractive. And so when I hear these types of people try and give blanket dating advice, I'm less likely to follow along or to want to listen, because I do know, like the woman said in the TikTok, that they probably have more opportunities and more chances. And so their perspective about what is happening or what is possible is going to be a little bit different than someone who might not have their advantages. While I know that it's not all about the outward appearance when it comes to attracting mates, it really, really helps. I've been aware of Shannon's content for a long time, but it's never been something that particularly appeals to me because I'm like, yo, we're just living really, really different lives. That being said, I still really appreciate her as a content creator because Shannon is a methodologist. Like, she applies methods and diagnostics to what she does and, what her experiences are. She's not just a person that's like, bragging about what she's experienced. She's very much a teacher in that way, which is why I think she's gone about producing the kind of content she's produced. I also want to say I really respect her as an interviewer. There was an interview that went viral a few weeks ago that she was responsible for with a Instagram talent named Watch Jazzy, or she goes by the name Watch Jazzy on Instagram, but her name is actually Jasmine. And Shannon and her were talking about the often discussed topic of submission. Jasmine is in a relationship with the football player Cam Newton. And a lot of people noticed that what Jasmine was saying about submission actually had a lot more to do with subservience. What I loved about the way Shannon spoke to her was she posed really, really insightful questions. She gave no judgment. It was a great interview. And it's just another example of, while I may not be able to follow along with some of the stuff that she says, I still respect her as a content creator. And so I was not surprised at all that, number one, she was responsible for yet another morsel of internet content that had gone viral. And also that it had come from her. Like, it's definitely her vibe. And the reception online was a little bit mixed. So you had the women who were praising it. And I think anytime you do have people who are very excited and filled with questions about how they can possibly fare a little bit better in the dating game, because it is brutal. You give them something new to try and they're going to get excited and they're going to try it out. Most notably, there was a young woman who went to the gym and she claimed that she vabbed before she got on the treadmill, and then she went into the sauna and she was sweating and she was vabbing. And there was a guy that came up to her and asked her out. and they made plans and they went out. I don't know how it ended up, but whatever. You do have a lot of women who were really positively reacting to this situation and reacting to this. And then you had the other reaction, which was mockery, which was disdain, which was disgust. I don't know who's surprised, but that's more where I fell on the spectrum, and I'll explain why. I saw some really funny nicknames that people were giving this on TikTok, and I will read them for you now. Discharged by David Dorf, Victoria's secretion, the pink door. And one person pointed out in a comment section that I'll link below that vabbing in Swedish is staying home with a sick child. So there might be a little bit of confusion on that front if you were to do it over there. I know that there is a long history of people using their own fluids in order to aid them in experiencing or achieving certain things. You have, mothers who will use breast milk remedies for their babies. I also can report, and this might be a TMI, but I'll go ahead and say it, that I was once talking with a guy on a dating app, and I said, well, I'm about to go to the gym. And he said, I'd like to see you after, but I don't want you to shower. And I did not oblige, but I do think that there is something about a woman's scent that can attract, or that a certain kind of man is like, let me get to that. And that's all I'll say about that. The reason why I turn my nose up at this a little bit is because I think there's just a code of decency that humans tend to abide by when it comes to their natural, just the things that come out of their body. Just because something is supposed to be sexy doesn't make it right to do. Also, I think that the patriarchy has programmed not only me, but other women to sort of be hyper vigilant about our smell. It is not unheard of to make fun of a woman by, saying she smells like fish. I'm sure people have heard that before. It is still taboo to talk about things like BV and certain types of infections. I think for me, it's hard to deprogram that. I've learned that I have to be very protective of that area, and only certain people on a very specific basis are going to get access to how I smell in that area. And so for me, opening that door and allowing just anybody to come in and to know what that part of me is like, it feels a little bit violating. So here's what science has to say about the process of vabbing.
So according to the Scientific American researchers, they have been looking into the effect of pheromones in humans since the 1970s, with no conclusive evidence to support their role in attractions. So far, scientists have had some success in demonstrating that exposure to body odor can elicit responses in other humans, but there is no evidence of a consistent and strong behavioral response to any human-produced chemical cue. Other research suggests that humans have a nearly useless vomeronasal organ, I hope I said that right, which is what animals use to process pheromones. A professor named Mark Elger, who works in evolutionary biology at the University of Melbourne, told the ABC, that's the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, that there is no scientific research to support vabbing. He says he thinks the whole idea is hilarious and he hopes no one takes it too seriously. He also says that from a biological perspective, it would make more sense for men to be doing things like vabbing, since women are the ones who make all the ultimate decisions when it comes to procreation and partner selection. I actually think that last part is boo-boo doo-doo garbage. I think that that opinion is based on what happens in the animal kingdom and not based on what happens in the human kingdom, where both men and women tend to make decisions based on their own attitudes, values, and beliefs about what makes somebody a valuable partner. I see it all the time where you have women that select a man and he's like, nope. You have men that select a woman and she's like, nope. And so it's going to take both men and women coming together and deciding they want to be with each other in the human world for something to work out. But I absolutely don't believe that women are the ones who make the ultimate decisions, because, not in the human world. You can just go out and live life and see that that is not what happens. Men and women both decide, and that is how things move forward.
It doesn't really have any basis in concrete truth, and it only exists as yet another gimmick to get people excited about a dating process that can often feel exhausting, frustrating, and I think people need to feel like they can win in some kind of way. And I think if you give them an idea, and if it's novel enough, it'll excite them, even if there's no real concrete evidence that it works. Now, I do want to say this, in an interview where she spoke about vabbing, Shannon did say.
So Shannon says that she admits the positive results could all be down to a strong placebo effect. So if you don't know what that means, a placebo is basically when you give somebody a pill that really does nothing, but because you tell them what it was supposed to do, they believe in you so much that they start to feel alleviating effects. And you know that you gave them something that doesn't even work, but it's the effect that it had on their mind anyway. And so, and a lot of times when they do medical tests, they'll give somebody a pill that actually works and someone else a placebo, and they'll, just test to see whether or not, number one, if the person actually has an issue, and number two, how strong the pill is that actually works. Anyway, she says, for me, it's feeling like I have a secret weapon. And also it's me claiming the truth that the smell of my vulva vagina is intoxicating, not toxic. I think that's really important. And it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning about deprogramming some of the negative messaging that women have gotten around their scent in this patriarchal and sometimes misogynistic society. Shannon also says that whether it's placebo or not, she has honestly noticed a difference, which I think fair is fair. If you notice a difference, you notice a difference.
And I agree. At the end of the day, the best part, and maybe the only truly enjoyable part about dating, is that moment when you are trying something new and it fills you with enough confidence to be able to go out into the world and represent yourself and to see, basically take a gamble and to see, okay, who might be interested now? What would this experience be like now? And that can be a very exciting thing. I do think that the period of our lives where we even have energy to keep trying and to keep putting ourselves out there is very, very short. Honestly, I would never do this. But if it's something that makes somebody else feel more confident, makes somebody else feel more interesting, makes somebody else feel more sexy, I say go ahead. If you are the type of person that's thinking of trying this out, maybe tell the people in your group that you're with. Because I know if I reached in to give somebody a hug and I was like, does she got behind her ear? I may never hug that person again. So you may want to send out a warning to your friends who might not be interested and might not be looking for that sort of aroma from you. Yeah, just keep that in mind. Social media continues to amaze me, and that is definitely one of the most interesting trends. How did you feel about it? Do you know about it? Is this something that you would ever do? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.